Good afternoon, guys. Back to finish some more of our story. Again, today I'm reading Embraced by the Light, or I'm continuing Embraced by the Light. I would love to hear if you're enjoying the story. Again, it's written by Betty J Eadie, and I just really hope you're enjoying it as much as I have. The Farewell. Suddenly, thousands of angels surrounded me. They were exuberant, pleased that I had made the decision to return. I heard their cheering, supporting me with love and encouragement. As I looked about, my heart melting for the love I felt from them, they began to sing. No music I had ever heard in my life, even the music in the garden, compared to this. It was grand, glorious, awesome, and meant especially for me. It was overwhelming. They sang spontaneously, parts not so much memorized as instantly known and instantly felt. Their voices were pure, and each note was clear and sweet. I do not remember the song they sang, but I was told that I would hear them sing again. I wept openly, soaking in their love and the celestial music, hardly believing that an insignificant soul like my own could be at the center of so much adoration. And I knew that no one is insignificant in the eternities. Every soul is of infinite worth. As my spirit swelled with humility and gratitude, I saw one last vision of the earth. When the heavens scrolled back, I saw the earth with its billions of people on it. I saw them scrambling for existence, making mistakes, experiencing kindness, finding love, grieving for death. And I saw the angels hovering above them. The angels knew the people by name and watched over them closely. They cheered when good was done and were saddened by mistakes. They hovered about to help and give direction and protection. I saw that we could literally call down thousands of angels in our aid if we ask in faith. I saw that we are all equal in their eyes, great or small, talented or handicapped, leaders or followers, saints or sinners. We are all precious and carefully watched over. Their love never fails us. The vision closed, and I gazed one last time at my eternal friends, the two women who had guided me, my three faithful ministering angels, and many others whom I had known and loved. They were magnificent, noble, and glorious, and I knew that I had only seen a glimpse of their souls. I had been privileged to view only a tiny vestibule of heaven, just a part of that paradisical home. Knowledge beyond my deepest dreams existed there, and in the hearts of those who dwell there, plans, paths, and truths await us there, some of which are eternities old, and some of which we have yet to make. I have been shown a glimpse of the things of heaven, and I will always treasure that glimpse. I knew that the angels singing now, filling my heart with love, would be my last glorious experience in this world. And as they continued to express their love and support for me, I began to cry. I was going home. No goodbyes, my return. No goodbyes were said. I simply found myself in the hospital room again. The door was still half open. The light was on above the sink, and lying on the bed under the blankets was my body. I stood in the air and looked down at it and was filled with revulsion. It looked cold and heavy and reminded me of an old pair of coveralls that had been dragged through mud and grime. In comparison, I felt like I had just taken a long, soothing shower and now had to put that heavy, cold, muddy garment on. But I knew I had to do it. I had promised. But I had to hurry. If I thought about it 1 second longer, I would lose courage and flee. Quickly, my spirit slipped back into the body. Once made, the commitment to go through with it was a natural process over which I had little control. My body's cumbersome weight and coldness were abhorrent. I started jerking around inside it as though many volts of electricity were pulsing through me. I felt the pain and sickness of my body again, and I became inconsolably depressed. After the joy of spiritual freedom, I had become a prisoner to the flesh again. As I lay trapped in the body, my 3 ancient friends appeared by my bed again. My dear monks, my ministering spirits, had come to comfort me. I was so terribly weak that I could not greet them as I wanted to. They were my last hold on the loveliness and purity of where I had been, and I wanted with all of my heart to reach out to them and thank them for their sweet and eternal friendship. I wanted to say one more time, I love you, but I could only stare through my eyes filling with tears and hope they understood. There was no need to speak. They understood all, and silently they stood near me, looking into my eyes, radiating their love, filling me with the spirit that conquered all pain. For a few precious seconds we looked into each other's eyes and communicated heart to heart. In those moments they gave me a message that I will always treasure, as a sacred token of our everlasting friendship. Their words and presence gave me great comfort. I knew that they knew not only my feelings, but the path of my new life, and the pain I would endure for the loss of their love, the frustrations of earth life again, the difficult journeys ahead. They were pleased with my decision to come back to earth. I had made the right choice. But for now, they said, rest a while. And they produced a very peaceful and quieting feeling. I felt it flow over me, and I began immediately to fall into a deep and healing sleep. As I drifted off, I felt beauty and love envelop me. I didn't know how long I slept. When I opened my eyes again, it was 2 a.m. It had been over 4 hours since my death. How much of that time I had spent in the spirit world, I did not know, but 4 hours did not seem nearly long enough for all that had happened to me. I didn't know if any medical action had been taken to revive me, or even if anyone had been in to see me. I felt rested now, but still I could not shake off my deep depression. Then I began to relive my experience, letting it all pass through my mind, and I was filled with wonder that I had actually visited with the Savior of the world and been held in his arms. I began to feel stronger as I reflected on the knowledge I had received while in his presence, and I knew his light would continue to give me strength and comfort in hours of need. I was about to close my eyes and drift off to sleep when I caught a movement by the door. I tried to raise up on my elbow to get a better look, and I saw a creature poke its head in. I cringed backward in fear. Then another one appeared. They were creatures of the most hideous and grotesque appearance imaginable. 5 of them entered the doorway, and I was all but paralyzed with fear. They appeared to be half human, half animal, short, muscular beings with long claws or fingernails, and savage, though human faces. They came toward me, snarling, growling, and hissing. They were full of hate, and I knew that they intended to kill me. I tried to scream, but was either too weak or too paralyzed with fear to move. I was helpless as they came to within 5 or 6 feet of the bed. Suddenly, a huge dome of light, almost like glass, fell over me, and the creatures lunged forward, seeming to recognize its threat to them. The dome protected me as they frantically flailed at it and tried to climb on it to get a better vantage point. But the dome was too high to climb on, and they became more frustrated. They shrieked and cursed and hissed and began spitting. I was horrified as I felt trapped in my bed. The creatures were persistent, and I didn't know if the dome could hold up. I didn't even know what it was. When I thought I could bear no more, and my fear seemed about to overwhelm me, my 3 adoring angels, the monks, entered the room again, and the creatures fled. The angels said not to fear, that I was protected. They told me that the devil was angry at my decision to return to earth, and that he had sent these powerful demons to destroy me. They explained that the dome would remain around me for the rest of my life. They said that the demons might try to get at me again, and that I might see or hear them in the future, but the dome would protect me. Also know, they said, that we are always near you to help and encourage you. Moments later, to my sadness, the monks were gone. This is my last visit with my 3 ministering angels. I lovingly call them my monks, but I know that they are 3 of my closest friends in all eternity. I look forward with anxious heart to the day we can embrace each other again and renew our eternal friendship. The demons came back again after the angels left, but the dome kept them from me. I reached for the phone and called my husband and began to explain that there were demons in my room. He thought I was hallucinating and got one of our daughters to talk to me on the phone while he hurriedly drove to the hospital. 10 minutes later, Joe walked through the doorway. He could not see the creatures in the room, but he came to the side of my bed and held my hand while I tried to tell him what was happening. Soon the creatures became frustrated and left again, not to return that night. I was relieved and began to calm down. Then I tried to tell Joe a little about my death experience. I didn't go into much detail then, but he knew that something significant had happened, and he was full of love and concern for me. The angels may have departed, but Joe was now there, comforting and protecting me. The love I felt from him may not have been as powerful as that from the angels or from Christ, but it was marvelous and very comforting nonetheless. The love we share as mortals may be imperfect, but it still has great power to heal and sustain. As Joe stayed with me, my spirit traveled in and out of both worlds, and as if my return had not been made permanent, I remember doctors and nurses working on me. I didn't know what they were doing or even how long they had been there, but I sensed the tension and anxiety in their efforts. I continued to view the spirit world during this time, and I saw many wonderful things of both this world and the other. Then I received another powerful experience, not in the form of a vision, but a visitation. A beautiful little girl came into the room. She was only 2 or 3 years old, and was the only child that I had seen in the spirit. A golden halo of light emanated from her, glowing in the room wherever she walked. She seemed quite attracted to Joe, and while the doctors and nurses were out of the room for a moment, I asked him if he could see her. He couldn't. She had the grace of a ballerina, walking almost on the tips of her toes, and performing little gestures as though she were dancing. I was struck immediately by her spontaneity and happiness. She went to Joe and stood on the tip of his shoe. She balanced on one foot and kicked up her other leg up behind her like a ballerina might, and leaned forward to reach into his pants pocket. I was mesmerized by this movement. I asked her what she was doing. She turned and laughed, smiling in an impish way, and I knew that she had heard me, but she didn't reply. I sensed her inner joy, the pure, exuberant happiness that filled her inside. And then she faded from my view and never reappeared. But I knew I would never forget her. For the next few hours, nurses and doctors were in and out checking on me. Although they were paying much more attention to me than they had the night before, neither Joe nor I shared anything of my experience with them. The next morning, one of the doctors said, "You really had a hard time last night. Can you tell me what you experienced?" I found that I couldn't share it with him, and I said I had nightmares. I was discovering that it was difficult for me to talk about my journey beyond, and it wasn't long before I didn't even want to share more of it with Joe. Talking seemed to dilute it. The experience was sacred. A few weeks passed, and I did share more of it with Joe and the older children. They immediately supported me, dispelling any fears I had of telling my family what had happened. I had a lot of learning and growing to do in the years ahead. In fact, the next few years would be the most difficult of my life. My recovery. I began sinking into a deep depression. I couldn't forget the scenes of beauty and peace of the spirit world. I wanted terribly to return there. As the world whirled around me, I became fearful of life, even loathing it at times, praying for death. I asked God to take me home, to please, please release me from this life and unknown mission. I became agoraphobic, fearing to leave the house. I remember times when I would look out the window to the mailbox and wish I had the courage to go to it. I was sinking into myself, dying a slow death, and although Joe and the children were wonderfully supportive, I knew that I was slipping away from them. Finally, it was the love of my family that saved me. I realized my self-pity was not fair to them. I had to join life again, make myself leave the spirit world behind and move on. I forced myself out of the house and gradually became involved in my children's activities, schoolwork, charitable service, church groups, camping, family vacations, and so on. It didn't happen all at once, but life became enjoyable again. Although my heart never truly left the spirit world, my love for this life flourished and became stronger than ever. 5 years after my death experience, I felt a desire to go back to the hospital to find out what might have happened to me physically that night. Until then, the doctors had never said, and I had never asked. I had shared my experience with a few friends by then, and they all seemed to ask the same thing. But did the doctors know you were dead? I didn't need the doctor's confirmation to know that I had died. Jesus himself told me I had, but my friends wanted more information. I made an appointment to see the doctor who performed the operation, and I went to his office. The lobby was crowded with ladies waiting to see him. His nurse said that he was running late, and I felt ashamed for taking his valuable time. These other people needed him more than I did. I waited anyway, and was eventually led to his office. When he came in, he remembered me and asked how he could help. I reminded him of the operation, and he said he remembered it. And then I said that I needed to know the truth about any complications that might have arisen the night after the surgery. He asked me why I needed to know, and I began to relate portions of the experience. 45 minutes passed. The lobby was jammed with people still waiting for him, but the doctor didn't move. I concluded, explaining that I wasn't interested in seeking a lawsuit. I wanted to know what went wrong, that it meant a lot to me to know. Without speaking, he stood and went to his files. When he came back, tears filled his eyes. Yes, he said, there were complications that night. They had lost me for a while, but had felt it was best not to mention anything to me. Then he went on to explain what had happened. I had hemorrhaged during the operation, and it appeared that the hemorrhage occurred again later that night. At the time of my death, I had been left alone during the nurse's shift change. And because I was unattended, they didn't know exactly how long I had been dead. The doctors and nurses working on me, giving me an injection, more medication, and IVs through the rest of the morning. After listening to the doctor, I was satisfied that he and the attending staff had done all they could for me. I asked the doctor why he was crying, and he said that his tears were tears of happiness. He had recently just lost a loved one and found hope in my story. My experience of a world beyond this one gave him solace. He also said that he remembered a similar experience from another patient some years before, and many of the details were the same. He was comforted in knowing that life did not end with death, and that we will meet our family members again. I assured him that there was a great reason to hope for a glorious life beyond this one, a life far more glorious than we can imagine. When I left his office, I felt free. I could leave the details of my physical death behind me forever, and to others, I could truthfully say what I had always known. I had in fact died and had returned. I want to keep going, but I think we're going to end it for there today. This next part is the best. So I don't want to ruin it and say any more about it, but I very much hope you guys are all enjoying the story. please reach out if you'd like to. I'm thinking of a different story I want to read next because this one is almost at its conclusion. And God is definitely close to my heart always. So those are very likely going to be the stories I'll be reading. So I hope they will be of inspiration and merit for you. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and please come back for the next read. Thank you. Bye-bye.